This podcast is brought to you by Guerrilla Podcast Syndicate, powered by Kangaroo Fern Media Lab. Kangaroo Fern is Australia's independent video and podcast management agency with a mission to help individuals and entrepreneurs to start their own podcasts and harness the power of podcasting. A Guerrilla Podcast Syndicate production. GMG, your guide to Australian dream. Learn how to make your Australian dreams come true with GMG Visa Solutions, your guide to Australian dream. This fortnightly podcast provides general advice about migration law and practice, whether it be for studying, working, visiting, migrating to Australia, petitioning for your visa refusal or cancellation, or obtaining Australian citizenship. GMG Visa Solutions got you covered. GMG, your guide to Australian dream.
Good day, everyone. Welcome to another episode of GMG Visa Solutions, your guide to Australian dream. This is your host, Jeroslyn Glico-Kowarskis, and this is brought to you by Guerrilla Podcast Syndicate and Auspod Syndicate, independent podcast networks for people worldwide. To learn more, please visit www.guerrillapodcast.com.ph and www.australiapodcastsyndicate.com. Just before we start, I would like to greet everyone a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. This holiday season may be different from the last few Christmases and New Years you and I had celebrated due to COVID-19 pandemic. Year 2020 would have been challenging for everyone, and I do hope and wish that we find in our hearts to see the positive aspects brought about this situation. Let the spirit of God's love and peace be with us always. Alright, so for today's episode, we will introduce to you subclass 494. This subclass is also known as Skilled Employer-Sponsored Regional Provisional Visa. This visa enables regional employers to address identified labor shortages within their region by sponsoring skilled workers where employers cannot source appropriately skilled Australian workers. For those who like, follow, and share our Facebook page GMG Visa Solutions and also our podcast, thank you very much and may you continue to support us. Also, thank you for those who have sent their inquiries. Rest assured that we will reply to you and provide you with general advice. If you want comprehensive and specific advice tailored to your circumstances, please do not hesitate to contact us. Australian migration laws are constantly changing. The general advice we provide on the podcast is current on the time that we made the recording. Because of how often migration law changes, the general information provided today may not be applicable tomorrow. That is why GMG Visa Solutions is here for you. So just a reminder, whatever we talked about on this podcast are only general information and not in any way specific due to everyone having different circumstances. So let's begin.
Your podcast journey starts here. Take the first step on your side. Hustle with us. It starts with a great domain. Get your podcast web host with Beard and Coffee at www.beardandcoffee.com.au or find us at Facebook.
As mentioned earlier, Skilled Employer-Sponsored Regional Provisional Visa, or Subclass 494, enables regional employers to address identified labor shortages within their region by sponsoring skilled workers where employer cannot source appropriately skilled Australian workers. This visa has 3 streams that you can apply for. The first stream is the employer-sponsored stream, the second is the labor agreement stream, and the third is subsequent entrant. Getting a subclass 494 is a 3-step process. The first step is that the employer must first be an approved sponsor, meaning the employer must be registered as a standard business sponsor or at least have lodged an application to become a standard business sponsor. Second step is that once the employer is a standard business sponsor, then the employer will need to lodge a nomination application for their potential employee who is the visa applicant. Third step, after the nomination application, is the visa application by the potential employee. So how can an employer become a standard business sponsor? So an employer must submit an online application with the Department of Home Affairs to become one. The eligibility requirement for the employers are as follows. You must have a legally established and currently operating business which can be inside or outside Australia. You must have no adverse information regarding your business, or if you or someone associated with the business do, the adverse information can be reasonable for the Department of Home Affairs to disregard. You should also have a strong record of or a demonstrated commitment to employing local labor. And lastly, you must declare that you will not engage in discriminatory recruitment practices. Standard business sponsor can sponsor someone to work for you on a skilled employer-sponsored regional provisional visa or subclass 494 and temporary skilled shortage visa or subclass 482. The fee for application is 420 Australian dollars. The validity is 5 years from the date when the sponsorship application was approved. Now let's go to the visa streams for subclass 494. Due to some differences in the eligibility requirement on each stream, we will discuss the employer-sponsored stream first. The basic eligibility under the employer-sponsored stream are as follows. You must be under 45 years of age unless exemption applies, be nominated by an approved sponsor to work in an occupation on the relevant skilled occupation list, have at least 3 years relevant work experience in your nominated occupation, have a relevant skills assessment unless exemption applies, work only for your sponsor or associated entity unless exemption applies, and meet the minimum standard of English language proficiency, which in this case is competent English. Other eligibility requirements are: you must meet the character requirement, you must meet the health requirement, you must sign the Australian value statement that confirms that you will respect the Australian way of life and obey Australian laws.
So you want to start a podcast, or perhaps you've already started one, but you're still unclear on how you can actually make this podcasting work. No worries. That's why we're here for you. We are Guerrilla Podcast Syndicate, powered by Kangaroo Fern Media Lab. Join our network. Contact us at info@kangaroofern.com because we're stronger together.
You must not owe any money to the Australian government. If in any case you have outstanding debts, then it must be paid prior to the visa application. If you are on shore, you must not have had any visa cancellation or a previous visa application refusal. Furthermore, the primary applicant must begin employment within 90 days upon entering Australia if you are coming from outside Australia, or 90 days upon the grant of the visa if you are in Australia. Let's now discuss the labor agreement stream. So this stream is for skilled workers nominated by employers who have a labor agreement. Labor agreements are developed between the Australian government represented by the department and the employer. All the eligibility requirement under labor agreement stream is the same to that of the employer-sponsored stream. There are only two major differences. First is that under the labor agreement stream, the nominated occupation must be subject of a labor agreement between the Commonwealth and the nominator, which is the employer. The second difference is the minimum standard of English language proficiency. Under the employer-sponsored stream, the requirement is competent English, while under the labor agreement stream, it depends on what was specified on the labor agreement between Australia and the employer. There are 5 types of labor agreements. These are as follows: company-specific labor agreements, designated area migration agreements, industry labor agreements, project agreements, global talent sponsored agreements. Also, there are currently 9 industry agreements in place. The industries are as follows: dairy, fishing, meat, minister of religion, on hire, pork, restaurant fine dining, advertising, and horticulture. Let's now discuss the third stream, which is the subsequent entrant. This stream is for members of the family unit of a skilled employer-sponsored regional subclass 494 visa holder who are applying separately for their subclass 494 visa and wish to join the primary visa holder in Australia. Usually, secondary applicants for this visa apply at the same time as the primary visa applicant. In some instances, this may not be possible due to changes in family composition after the primary applicant has submitted their visa application already. With this visa, you can live, work, and study only in designated regional areas of Australia for 5 years. You can travel outside Australia and return as many times as you want while the visa is valid and while there's no travel restrictions in place. And if eligible, you can apply for permanent residency after 3 years from the time the visa is granted.
We are Independent Podcast Network. We are Guerrilla Podcast Syndicate. Would you like to hear your brand while supporting quality podcasts? Contact us now at advertise@guerrillapodcastsyndicate.com.
Designated regional areas include all of Australia except for Sydney, Melbourne, and Brisbane. This visa is temporary and its validity is 5 years. The visa application charge is 4,045 Australian dollars and the processing time for this visa application is not applicable at this stage. You can be inside or outside Australia but not in immigration clearance when you apply for the visa and when a decision is made on the visa application. You can also include your family members when you apply for this visa. The visa application charge for each dependent applicant 18 years and over is 2,025 Australian dollars, and it's $1,010 for those who are under 18 years old. If granted this visa, the Department of Home Affairs will digitally link your visa to your passport. You do not need a label or a sticker in your passport to enter Australia. Let's now go to the visa conditions for a skilled employer-sponsored regional provisional visa, subclass 494. So visa conditions are like limitations or restrictions or rules applicable to a person who is a lawful non-citizen of Australia. If these visa conditions are attached to the visa grant notice, the person must abide with it, otherwise the visa may be cancelled. You must obey with the Australian laws. So what are some of the potential conditions that may be attached to subclass 494? At the moment, there are 6 potential conditions. First is condition 8515, which states that you must not marry or enter into a de facto relationship before entry to Australia. Condition 8578 requires you to notify the department if your passport details have changed. Condition 8579 requires you to only live, study, and work in a designated regional area. Condition 8580 requires you, if requested by the department, to provide evidence of your residential, study, and work address. Condition 8581 requires you to attend an interview if you are asked by the department through a letter that was sent to you. And lastly, Condition 8608 requires you to work only in your nominated occupation. So that's it. These are the basic information you need to know about subclass 494, which is the Skilled Employer-Sponsored Regional Provisional Visa. If you have any questions or if there's any visa you want us to discuss on our podcast, please do not hesitate to contact us. We cannot stress enough that whatever we talked about on this podcast are only general information, not in any way specific. The reason being is because everyone has different circumstances. It is best to contact us so we can guide and provide you with visa options suitable to your preferences and needs. We listen to you and deliver professional and flexible migration assistance catered for you. You can hear this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and many other podcast platforms. Also, you can listen to us through other media platforms, so please do not forget to like, follow, and share our Facebook page, GMG Visa Solutions, and also our podcast. You can contact us directly through our Facebook page, email us at inquire@gmgvisasolutions.com.au, or visit our website www.gmgvisasolutions.com.au for more information. We pride ourselves with well-trained consultants who are equipped and qualified to provide migration services wherever you are in the world. With our comprehensive knowledge and expertise on various migration issues, we can simplify it for you. No more complicated processes, just a straightforward approach that saves you time, money, and effort. So until next time, keep dreaming, keep praying. Dreams do come true. Thank you for listening to GMG Visa Solutions, your guide to Australian Dream. See you, and may God bless us all, especially during these unprecedented times caused by COVID-19 pandemic. Again, have a very Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Take care, everyone.
Thank you for listening. Make sure to visit our website at www.GUERRILLAPodcastSyndicate.com, where you can subscribe to the show in Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or via RSS, so you'll never miss a show. While you're at it, if you found value in this show, rate and review this podcast and share it with your friends. You can also join the conversation with Guerrilla We R on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Please consider on making a donation to help us keep making the podcast you love. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us.